that radiation cannot be seen, smelled, or otherwise detected by human senses. Now, Homeland Security says, a nuclear blast is an explosion with intense light and heat, a damaging pressure wave, and widespread radioactive material that can contaminate the air, water, and ground surface for miles around. During a nuclear incident, it is important to avoid radioactive material if possible. While experts may predict at this time that a nuclear attack is less likely than other types, terrorism by its nature is unpredictable. If there is advance warning of an attack, take cover immediately, as far below ground as possible. Though any shield or shelter will help protect you from the immediate effects of the blast and pressure wave. If there is no warning given, quickly assess the situation. Consider if you can't get out of the area or if it would be better to go inside a building to limit the amount of radioactive material you are exposed to. If you take shelter, go as far below ground as possible. Close windows and doors. Turn off air conditioners, heaters, or other ventilation systems. Stay where you are. Watch TV, listen to the radio, or check the internet for official news as it becomes available. To limit the amount of radiation you are exposed to, think about shielding, distance, and time. Shielding. If you have thick shield between yourself and the radioactive material, then more of the radiation will be absorbed and you will be exposed to less. Distance. The further away you are from the blast and fallout, the lower your exposure. Time. Minimize the time spent exposed will also reduce your risk. Use available information to assess the situation. If there is a significant radiation threat, healthcare authorities may or may not advise you to take potassium iodide. Potassium iodide is the same stuff added to your table salt to make iodide. It may or may not protect your thyroid gland, which is particularly vulnerable from radioactive iodide exposure. And CDC says, when a nuclear device is exploded, a large fireball is created. Everything inside of this fireball vaporizes, including soil and water, and is carried upwind. This creates a mushroom cloud. As this vaporized radioactive material cools, it becomes condensed and forms particles, such as dust. The condensed radioactive material then falls back to the earth. This is what is known as fallout. Because fallout is in the form of particles, it can be carried long distances on wind currents and end up miles from the site of the explosion. Fallout is radioactive and can cause contamination of anything on which it lands, including food and water supplies. The effect on a person from a nuclear blast will depend on the size of the bomb and the distance the person is from the explosion. However, a nuclear blast would likely cause great destruction, death, and injury, and have a wide area or impact. In a nuclear blast, injury or death may occur as a result of the blast itself, or as a result of debris thrown from the blast. People may experience moderate to severe skin burns, depending on their distance from the blast site. Those who look directly at the blast could experience eye damage ranging from temporary blindness or severe burns on the retina. Individuals near the blast site would be exposed to high levels of radiation and would develop symptoms of radiation sickness called acute radiation syndrome, or ARS. While severe burns would appear in minutes, other health effects might take days or weeks to appear. These effects range from mild, such as skin redness, to severe effects such as cancer and death, depending on the amount of radiation absorbed by the body, the type of radiation, the route of exposure, and the length of time of the exposure. People may experience two types of exposure from radioactive materials from a nuclear blast. One is external exposure, and two is internal exposure. External exposure would occur when people were exposed to radiation outside of their bodies from the blast or its fallout. Internal exposure would occur when people ate food or breathed air that was contaminated with radioactive fallout. Both internal and external exposure from fallout could occur miles away from the blast site. Exposure to very large dose of external radiation may cause death within a few days or months. Internal exposure to lower doses of radiation exposure from breathing or eating food contaminated with radioactive fallout may lead to an increased risk of developing cancer and other health effects. In the event of a nuclear blast, a national emergency response plan would be activated and would include federal, state, and local agencies. Following are some steps recommended by the World Health Organization if a nuclear blast occurs. If you are near the blast when it occurs, turn away and close and cover your eyes to prevent damage to your sight. Drop to the ground, face down, and place your hands under your head. Remain flat until the heat and two shock waves have passed. If you are outside the blast, find something to cover your mouth and nose, such as a scarf, handkerchief, or other cloth. Remove any dust from your clothes by brushing, shaking, or wiping it in a ventilated area. However, cover your mouth and nose while you do this. Move to a shelter, basement, or other underground area, preferably located away from the direction that the wind is blowing. Remove clothing since it may be contaminated. If possible, take a shower, wash your hair, and change clothes before you enter the shelter. If you are already in a shelter or a basement, cover your mouth and nose with a face mask or other material such as a scarf or handkerchief until the fallout cloud has passed. Shut off ventilation system and seal doors and windows until the fallout cloud had passed. However, after the fallout cloud had passed, unseal the doors and windows to allow some air circulation. Stay inside until authorities say it is safe to come out. Listen to local radio or television for information and advice. Authorities may direct you to stay in your shelter or evacuate to a safer place away from the area. If you must go out, cover your mouth and nose with a damp towel. Use stored food and drinking water. Do not eat local fresh food or drink water from open water supplies. Clean and cover any open wounds on your body. If you are advised to evacuate, listen to the radio or television for information about evacuation, routes, temporary shelters, and procedures to follow. Before you leave, close and lock windows and doors and turn off air conditioning vents, fans, and other ventilating systems. Take disaster supply with you, such as flashlights and extra batteries, battery-operated radio, first aid kit, emergency food and water, non-electric can opener, essential medicines, cash, credit cards, and sturdy shoes. Remember, your neighbors may require special assistance, especially infants, elderly people, and people with disabilities. I believe that it's a real possibility for some kind of nuclear/EMP exchange to take place inside America. And if a nuclear/EMP exchange does take place inside America, I believe that it can happen between the years 2009 and the year 2014. Number 2 is about chemical disaster.